Have you ever felt that there is something far greater within you than just the name you bear or the role you play? Something beyond society's expectations, daily routines, or the labels imposed upon you? The truth is, behind all of this, there exists a powerful, immutable essence that transcends these superficial definitions. What if I told you that the greatest illusion we live by is believing we are merely human, limited, controlled by emotions, prisoners of mental patterns we didn't even choose? This thought might seem provocative, but it is precisely here that the journey to uncover who you truly are begins. Perhaps you've grown accustomed to thinking that what defines you are your achievements, mistakes, fears, or even what others say about you. But what if all of that is nothing more than a mask? A mask you can remove to discover a much deeper and more powerful consciousness? Throughout this video, we will explore concepts that challenge the common view of who you believe yourself to be. We will question the definitions you hold of identity and dive into what truly matters, your immutable essence, your pure consciousness. And the best part, this journey has the potential to change your life in ways few can even imagine. Are you ready to see beyond what your eyes can perceive and what your mind thinks it knows? If so, stay with me, because what we are about to uncover is not merely a different perspective on life, but an opportunity to free yourself from the patterns that limit you and finally understand the transformative power of consciousness. And trust me, by the end of this journey, you will realize that being human is only the beginning of the story. Before we move forward, if this message resonates with you, go ahead and give this video a like, and if you're not already part of our community, consider subscribing to our channel to continue this journey with us. The identity that many carry throughout life is often shaped by labels that, although they may seem solid, are incredibly fleeting. Imagine that over the years, you've presented yourself as a professional, parent, friend, or simply by your name. These are merely tags that make it easier to navigate the social world. But do they truly define who you are? People often cling to these roles, believing they build their essence, without realizing that these same roles change and disappear, while something deeper remains unaltered. This raises the question, who are we when all these labels fall away? Understanding this illusion of identity is like peeling away layers of a mask we wear daily. When these masks fall, the question arises, who remains? Often, there is discomfort in realizing that, despite being called by a name or associated with a profession, that is not your true essence. This discomfort is an invitation to dive deeper, beyond the surface and predefined definitions. When someone begins to question these definitions, a door to self-awareness opens. For instance, a doctor may spend a lifetime saving lives, but is that all they are, or is there something more at the core of their being? As we deconstruct the superficial identity, the perception of the true self begins to emerge, and this can be transformational. What transcends these external definitions is eternal, unchanging, and often underestimated. When people allow themselves to question this illusion, they create space for a new perspective, a broader vision of their own essence. And here is where the first sparks of freedom appear, the freedom to be much more than any label can describe. The freedom to not be confined to transient roles and to view life with fresh eyes. The true essence of a human being is something that goes beyond external circumstances and the roles that shift throughout life. As age progresses, professions transform, and even physical locations change, there is something constant that remains. It's like an invisible thread connecting all experiences, never altering. Even when a person loses a job, moves to a new city, or faces a personal crisis, this essential core remains undisturbed, observing, living each phase as part of a larger cycle. And here lies the key: external changes do not touch the essence of who we truly are. This constancy becomes evident when we reflect on the different phases of life. Think of who you were at 10 years old, and now look at who you are today. The experiences you've lived have certainly shaped your perspective, but the I that observes these changes has remained the same. This I, present since childhood and throughout adulthood, is unaffected by life's highs and lows. It's like the calm center of a hurricane, still and unwavering, while everything around it transforms. Recognizing this immutable part brings a profound sense of stability, an anchor amid life's storms. When one recognizes their immutable essence, they connect with a source of inner peace. The daily struggles, triumphs, and failures lose some of the weight they usually carry. After all, if the core of the self remains unchanged, these external experiences are merely passing landscapes on the journey of life. This understanding teaches us to value change as part of the growth process, without clinging to them as definitive of who we are. And upon discovering this essence, one finds themselves closer to their true nature, more centered, and prepared to face any challenge that life may bring. The challenges we face throughout life, no matter how intense they may seem in the moment, are always fleeting. Though they often appear overwhelming, the truth is that they come and go, leaving only traces in our memory. Yet, many people fail to realize that these difficulties do not define who they are. There exists within each of us a silent observer, witnessing all that transpires without ever becoming entangled. This part of us remains untouched by suffering, and therein lies true freedom. By recognizing this duality between the one who suffers and the one who observes, we can begin to consciously distance ourselves from adversity. Imagine someone enduring a financial crisis or the heartbreak of a failed relationship. In the heat of the moment, the pain feels all-consuming. However, when one allows themselves to observe the experience without becoming fused with it, they start to see that there is something beyond the suffering. This realization doesn't imply ignoring or avoiding challenges, but rather facing them with the clarity that they are not permanent, nor do they define us. A practical example is the practice of meditation, where one learns to observe their thoughts and emotions without judgment, allowing them to pass like clouds in the sky, without clinging to them. By cultivating this ability to observe without attachment, a powerful inner resilience is born. The individual begins to view their challenges from a new perspective, as inevitable parts of life that, once overcome, leave space for growth. This practice of conscious detachment is not apathy, but a wiser way to approach adversity. In this way, one becomes capable of facing life with a lightness that once seemed impossible, realizing that, deep down, they are the unchanging observer, not the transient experiences occurring around them. Anxiety is one of the most constant companions in modern life, and it is often seen as something inseparable from the human condition. Yet few realize that anxiety is merely a passing experience, a reaction of the mind to external stimuli or future fears. The crucial part of this understanding is realizing that you are not your anxiety. Within each of us exists an observer who witnesses the anxiety without becoming involved. This part does not suffer, does not identify with the fears, it simply observes. When we come to this realization, we begin to untangle the mental knots that anxiety creates. A practical way to visualize this dynamic is to imagine anxiety as a film playing on a cinema screen. The mind is immersed in the film, reacting to every scene, but the consciousness, the observer, sits in the audience, watching from a distance. Once this relationship is understood, it becomes possible to start disentangling from anxiety. Conscious breathing techniques, such as diaphragmatic breathing, can help create this separation. By focusing on the simple act of breathing, you step out of the anxious mind and return to being the observer, breaking the cycle of identification with anxiety. Untangling the knots of anxiety is not something that happens overnight, but with consistent practice, this conscious detachment becomes a powerful tool. The individual begins to recognize that although anxiety may arise, it does not have the power to define them. The awareness of anxiety is key to managing it, and by learning to observe, one can choose how to respond. It is this awareness that brings true freedom, the freedom not to be held captive by anxious thoughts, but to be a conscious spectator, able to navigate life's situations with greater serenity and clarity. The human mind is akin to a grand theater, where different scenes are played out moment by moment. Life's experiences, whether joyful or painful, emerge like actors upon the stage, each portraying a temporary role. But beyond the actors and the unfolding scenes lies the audience, viewing it all from a broader perspective. The audience, however, does not become emotionally entangled in the play. It simply observes, without judgment, without haste. In much the same way, our consciousness is that audience, witnessing the unfolding events of life without being swayed by fleeting emotions. This theater analogy helps us grasp how we can better handle life's challenges. Imagine you're navigating a stressful situation at work. On the stage of your mind, this experience may seem to dominate the entire scene, but as a conscious observer, you can take a step back and watch the situation from a broader viewpoint. Just as an audience understands that a play is temporary and that the scenery will soon change, you can recognize that stress or difficulty is also transitory. The role of consciousness is precisely this: to observe, but not become emotionally involved in every scene that arises. By positioning yourself as the spectator in the theater of the mind, you gain a powerful tool for navigating life with greater balance. It is not about ignoring experiences or shirking responsibilities, but rather about acknowledging that no matter how intense situations may be, they are merely part of a larger play. With this perspective, you gain the clarity to act with wisdom, rather than reacting impulsively. And just as a play has many scenes, life continues to transition, always bringing new chapters that can be observed and lived with greater ease. Conscious detachment is a fundamental skill for those seeking to live with more serenity. It does not mean emotionally distancing yourself from situations, but rather observing them with clarity, without being drawn into the emotional weight they carry. This allows us to face challenges with a calmer, more centered mind. Picture yourself in the midst of a difficult situation, such as a family argument. Instead of diving headfirst into impulsive emotions and reactions, conscious detachment allows you to step back and observe the scenario as if you were a spectator. From there, your decisions become more measured and balanced. To apply conscious detachment in daily life, simple practices such as meditation or mindfulness are highly effective. These methods train the mind to observe thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. A practical example is when someone criticizes you. Normally, the immediate reaction would be to feel anger or become defensive. However, with conscious detachment, you recognize the criticism as merely an external opinion, something that can be observed without necessarily identifying with it. This practice helps to lessen the suffering caused by impulsive reactions, allowing you to make decisions more thoughtfully. This type of detachment is not indifference, but wisdom in action. When you consciously distance yourself, you are able to navigate life's adversities with greater ease, without being swept away by each problem that arises. A person becomes more resilient, capable of observing situations without letting them take control. And the best part is that, over time, this ability becomes second nature, transforming how we handle the everyday. Thus, consciousness grows stronger, and you begin to face challenges as opportunities for growth, rather than inescapable burdens. Amid life's turbulence, there is something that remains immutable and untouched: consciousness. This consciousness, often referred to as the inner self, has been with us from the moment we were born and continues to accompany us throughout our lives, regardless of external circumstances. Sometimes, the rush of daily life causes people to forget that they have this stable source within. They become identified with temporary narratives, believing that what happens outside defines who they are. Yet, the true essence transcends the daily changes. It does not allow itself to be swayed by the tides of life. When reflecting upon this immutable core, one often encounters a profound sense of inner peace. After all, if there is something within us that remains unchanged, why should we allow ourselves to be swept away by external fluctuations? It is like the calm center of a storm. Everything may be crumbling around, but the core remains steadfast. Examples of this can be seen in moments of deep crisis. Even when someone loses a job or faces a personal hardship, the observing consciousness remains present, silently witnessing everything without being affected. Reconnecting with this core is discovering an internal anchor that brings serenity amidst the chaos. This reconnection with one's essence leads us to question our priorities and perspectives. Once we recognize that a part of us is eternal and unalterable, we begin to view life differently. Material achievements, social status, and even failures carry less weight, as they are unable to touch the essence of who we truly are. This journey of reconnection is, therefore, a return home, a home that has always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. And as one walks this path, they start to realize that the peace they sought so desperately in the external world was, from the very beginning, within them. The concept of pure consciousness is fascinating because it challenges the common understanding of who we believe ourselves to be. So often, we see ourselves through the lenses of our emotions, thoughts, and circumstances, but these are merely surface layers. Pure consciousness, on the other hand, is the state of being that exists beyond these layers. It is not shaped by external conditions, nor by the limitations we place upon ourselves. Imagine it as the blank canvas upon which all life's experiences are painted. Though the colors, shapes, and scenes may change, the canvas remains the same, always ready for a new painting. A clear example of this can be seen in how we handle our thoughts and emotions. Often, people identify with what they feel. If they are sad, they believe they are sadness. If they are anxious, they define themselves as anxious. But pure consciousness is the very opposite of this identification. It reminds us that we are the observers of these emotions, not the emotions themselves. Once this is realized, one begins to view life from a broader perspective. Instead of being pulled into the emotional highs and lows, they step back and observe, understanding that thoughts and feelings are but temporary visitors. Recognizing pure consciousness is liberating, as it allows a person to see their true nature, a being far more vast than the limitations imposed by the mind and body. This doesn't mean that emotions and thoughts should be ignored, but rather that they can be approached in a healthier way. Pure consciousness is unaffected by past mistakes or future fears. It exists in the present, in the here and now. And by reconnecting with this consciousness, one discovers an infinite source of peace, clarity, and inner strength, which has always been there, simply waiting to be rediscovered. Life's journey often takes us away from our true essence, but the process of self-awareness is, in fact, a return to our natural state. This state is composed of love, peace, joy, and self-confidence, which, though often buried beneath the demands and challenges of daily life, remain ever accessible. As we reconnect with this essence, we realize that these feelings are inherent to our being. They do not need to be earned or sought in external sources, for they have always been a part of our deepest nature. This return to origin is, therefore, a rediscovery of what has always been. Throughout life, many get lost in the pursuit of external validation, believing they must reach certain milestones to finally feel complete. However, this endless cycle of seeking only takes us further from what we already possess within. It's like searching for something that is already in your pocket. By practicing self-awareness, one begins to see that true happiness and contentment come from within, not from material achievements or external praise. This realization brings a sense of freedom, for once the external search ceases, one finally finds the peace and balance they have longed for. The return to one's origin is, therefore, a continuous process of aligning with our true nature. Every moment of self-awareness draws us closer to this state of inner wholeness. And as we delve deeper into this journey, life becomes lighter, more fluid, as we realize that regardless of external circumstances, the core of our being remains unshaken. This return empowers us to live with greater authenticity, creating a positive impact not only within ourselves but on all those around us. After all, when we are aligned with our essence, we radiate peace and love into the world. Within every human being lies an inner strength that often remains dormant until challenging situations arise to awaken it. This strength, unlike external achievements or social recognition, does not rely on outward factors for its existence. It is ever present, waiting for the moment when it is called upon. Many people only become aware of this resilience when faced with crises, losses, or significant life changes. It is at this point that a great awakening occurs, where the individual discovers that despite all difficulties, there is a part of them that remains steadfast, capable of overcoming any adversity. A clear example of this innate resilience is seen in the way many individuals manage to rise after major losses, be they financial, emotional, or even physical. It is as if, in the face of adversity, a new strength emerges, ready to confront whatever comes. This strength, however, does not come out of nowhere. It has always been there, waiting to be activated. The difference lies in how one perceives the challenge, as an insurmountable barrier or as an opportunity to reconnect with this inner source of power. And this source is not tied to success or failure, but rather to the depth of consciousness one holds about themselves. Awakening this resilience is a continuous process of self-discovery. The more a person connects with their inner consciousness, the more they realize that there is no need to fear the ups and downs of life. The strength that resides within each of us is like an anchor that keeps the boat steady, even in the midst of storms. By reconnecting with this resilience, one begins to see challenges not as something to be avoided, but as opportunities for growth and strengthening. Life thus takes on a new meaning, and confidence in one's ability to overcome becomes unshakable. The trials that life imposes on us are inevitable, but the way we face them makes all the difference. When someone is connected to their inner strength, challenges no longer feel like unbearable burdens but instead become opportunities for growth and evolution. This doesn't mean that the difficulties will be any smaller, but that the person will have a solid foundation to face them with greater ease and security. By realizing that the strength they need already resides within them, one develops an unwavering confidence in their ability to handle adversity. A practical example of this is when someone faces a serious illness or a personal loss. Initially, the weight of the situation may seem overwhelming, but by accessing their inner strength, the person finds the resilience to navigate these moments. This can be achieved through practices such as meditation, self-care, and cultivating a positive mindset. By focusing on the present and what can be done, rather than being consumed by fear of the future, the person discovers a new way to approach life's trials. They come to understand that no matter how difficult the situation, there is always a way to move forward with courage. Facing life's trials is not about denying the difficulties but about confronting them with the clarity that they are part of the journey. And it is through this process that one begins to feel more secure, knowing that adversities are not a reflection of weakness, but an opportunity to strengthen inner resolve. Each obstacle overcome becomes living proof that we are stronger than we think, and this confidence extends to all areas of life. With every challenge faced, one draws ever closer to their essence, transforming trials into life's valuable lessons. The way we tell our story, both to others and to ourselves, directly shapes how we perceive life. Often, we cling to past experiences, mistakes, or even traumas, believing that these parts of our history define who we are. However, true inner strength emerges when we begin to rewrite that narrative. Instead of being confined by past events, we can view them as chapters in a much larger story, chapters that, while significant, do not determine who we are in the present. Rewriting the narrative is like assuming the role of the author of one's own life. Imagine someone who, after a series of professional failures, starts to see themselves as a loser. This distorted vision can be rewritten by recognizing that each failure was, in fact, an opportunity for growth. In this context, failure doesn't define the person, rather, it is how they respond to it that matters. Inner resilience allows us to turn these moments of downfall into sources of strength, rewriting our story with new meanings and lessons. In doing so, we no longer see ourselves as victims of circumstance but as protagonists of our own journey. This practice of redefining our narrative is essential for unlocking the full transformative potential within us. Every mistake, every stumble, becomes a chance for growth and self-discovery. By adopting this mindset, one is freed from the weight of the past and begins to face life with a fresh perspective. The story we tell about ourselves is powerful, and by consciously rewriting it, we can reshape our reality, creating a life that aligns with our true purpose. Transformation begins the moment we realize that the narrative is in our hands, ready to be crafted. Consciousness is like an internal compass, guiding us through life's uncertainties and challenges. When we are connected to this consciousness, we have a constant source of direction, unaffected by external pressures or fleeting emotions. This inner guide helps us navigate the complexities of existence with greater clarity and determination. By trusting in this consciousness, we are able to make wiser decisions, aligned with our true essence, rather than reacting impulsively to the circumstances at hand. Imagine a moment of great indecision, such as choosing between two seemingly attractive job opportunities. The mind can easily become lost in excessive analysis and doubt, but consciousness, the inner guide, holds the answer. By quieting the mind for a moment and listening to this inner voice, decisions become simpler. It always points us toward the path that resonates most deeply with our essence, reminding us of what truly matters. And this applies not only to major decisions but also to the small choices we make each day, Trusting in consciousness as a guide is an exercise in self-confidence. As we allow ourselves to follow this inner compass, we begin to realize that it never leads us astray. Even when challenges arise, this guidance keeps us steady, showing us that adversities are merely part of the journey, not insurmountable obstacles. By cultivating this connection, life's uncertainties lose their power, and we begin to walk a path with greater purpose and clarity. Consciousness is, after all, the most reliable guide we have throughout our journey. Self-awareness offers us the incredible power of transformation, and this change does not lead to isolation or detachment from the world, as many fear, but rather to a reunion with our most authentic selves. When one awakens to this consciousness, life begins to be lived with more depth, purpose, and authenticity. The power of transformation lies in the realization that the external world can be shaped by this inner clarity. By reconnecting with pure consciousness, one breaks free from the chains of limiting patterns and imposed narratives, paving the way for a new way of living. Transforming oneself through self-awareness does not mean radically changing one's personality or withdrawing from the world's experiences. On the contrary, it is a process of alignment between the inner self and external actions. A clear example of this transformation can be seen in people who, after years of dissatisfaction with their jobs, begin seeking careers more aligned with their values and passions. By listening to their inner voice, they find the courage to rewrite their own story and create a reality that reflects their true essence. The power of transformation lies in this connection with pure consciousness, which allows them to see the world through new eyes. The greatest gift of conscious transformation is the ability to transcend negative emotions and the destructive patterns that once controlled life. The individual becomes the creator of their own reality, shaping the external environment from a mind and heart that are more centered. This change, far from being superficial, deeply impacts every aspect of life. Relationships, work, and even daily challenges begin to be experienced in an entirely new way, where the individual feels empowered and aware of their potential to create a positive impact. It is at this point that true transformation occurs, where every action reflects a being at peace with themselves. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times you've allowed yourself to be limited by labels and patterns you didn't even choose? How many of these limitations still guide your choices today? The truth is, now that you've uncovered the power of your consciousness, you hold in your hands the tools necessary to completely transform your life. But this transformation only happens if you are truly committed to applying this knowledge. What masks are you still wearing? What stories do you keep telling yourself that no longer make sense? It's time to rewrite that narrative. So now I ask you, what are you waiting for to start putting all this into practice? Are you willing to look at yourself in a deeper and more truthful way, letting go of the old definitions and patterns that no longer serve you? If you've come this far, it's because something has resonated within you, a part that already knew true transformation begins from within. So why not take the next step and apply this in your life? One day at a time. And if you need help along the way, remember that we are here to share more ideas, experiences, and teachings that will guide you even further on this journey. If this video has helped you in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to keep learning about the power of consciousness and how it can change your life. Turn on notifications so you won't miss any content that could be the next step in your evolution. Let's continue this journey together.